AITA for rejecting my ex who crawled back a year after saying I wasn't enough? Qley and I were together for almost 6 years, and for most of that time our relationship was calm, stable, and at least from my perspective, truly beautiful. We were not the perfect couple, no, but there was affection, trust, and plans for the future. We had been living together for a little over 2 years in our modest 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs, and even though money was not flowing in, we managed, and we got by. When I met her, Qley was not the highly staged woman you see today on her social media. She dressed simply, often wearing oversized t-shirts, jeans, and sneakers. Getting dressed up to go to the supermarket or for a casual outing did not really interest her. I met her like that, and I fell in love with that version of her, real, relaxed, approachable, without a mask. Her way of dressing never bothered me. On the contrary, it put me at ease, as if we were both in the same place in life, on the same wavelength. And as for me, I was not particularly someone who drew attention. I was always realistic about my looks. Average height, normal build. Nothing spectacular, no major feature that turned heads. I never went to the gym. I did not find myself particularly attractive, but I did not hate myself either. I lived with it. Qley would repeatedly tell me she loved me just the way I was. That with me, she felt safe. And for a long time that was enough for me. Everything started to change slowly, so slowly that at the time I did not notice anything. First, Qley started taking more interest in her appearance. She bought new clothes, fitted dresses, heels. She started wearing makeup even for everyday things, grabbing a coffee at Starbucks, running quick errands. She changed her hairstyle, and generally speaking, she became much more attentive to her image. I did not see this as a negative thing. On the contrary, I often told her she looked gorgeous, that these changes suited her well, that I loved seeing her confident. I figured it was a normal phase, that she was just exploring another side of herself. I never criticized her for anything. Except that alongside these visible changes there were others that were much harder to ignore. Qley started pulling away from me. Not overnight. It started with little things, fewer long conversations, less interest in what I was talking about, fewer questions about my day. She spent more time on her phone, more time in front of the mirror, more time comparing herself to others. And then the remarks began. At first they sounded like lighthearted jokes. "You should hit the gym," she would say, laughing. "Look at your arms, they look like sticks." Sometimes she made fun of my clothes. "With that you look like an old man. You should dress better if you were going out with me." I took it with humor. I thought it was just her way of talking, that she did not mean it maliciously. I am not a very sensitive person, and above all I was confident. I told myself that if something truly bothered her about me, she would talk to me respectfully. But these jokes started to change their tone. One day while we were looking at pictures on social media, she pointed to an image of one of her friends with her husband. "Look at Hannah," she said. "Her husband makes great money. He just bought her a brand new SUV." Then, without even really looking at me, she added, "There are men out there who know how to take care of a woman." Another time, during a get-together with her friends, someone was talking about traveling abroad. Qley turned to me and blurted out loud, "We cannot do that. With what you make it is impossible." Some people gave an awkward laugh, a laugh of discomfort. I smiled too, except that inside something shifted. It was not just embarrassment. It was as if I felt constantly weighed, evaluated, compared, and graded. I worked with my brother in a small mobile auto detailing business. It was not a glamorous job, not at all, but it was honest. We washed cars, did deep interior cleaning, polishing, buffing, waxing, and sometimes we stayed for hours under the sun sweating, scrubbing, and doing it all over again. We were not getting rich, but we covered the essentials. With that money we paid the rent, the bills, and the majority of the household expenses. Qley worked part-time, but the heaviest financial burden rested on me, and I never held it against her. To me, living together meant supporting each other. Over time these remarks became much more direct. One day, in front of the mirror, she said, "Let's be honest, I am the pretty one in this relationship." I did not even know what to answer. I let out an automatic little laugh like a reflex, but that phrase stuck with me. Another night, during dinner, she brought up her friends' husbands again. "They can give them the life they deserve," she said. "Beautiful houses, trips, true stability." I replied, "We are doing our best, and we are not unhappy. We are getting by." She sighed as if I was not understanding something so obvious to her. Then she coldly whispered, "It is not enough for me." From then on, the arguments became more frequent. I tried to talk, to understand, to ask her what was wrong, what she needed. She responded by deflecting or with cutting remarks. She told me I was exaggerating, that I took everything personally. The decisive argument happened on a night like any other. There was not any yelling right away. It started as a tense conversation and then gradually escalated until it became suffocating. At one point, I bluntly asked her if she was no longer happy with me. She stayed silent for a few seconds, then dropped words I will never forget. "It is just that I am too much of a woman for you," she said. "And it has been a long time since I realized I deserved better." I felt like the air was being ripped from my chest, as if everything had collapsed at once. "What do you mean by that?" I asked with a tight throat. She replied, "I need a different kind of man, someone on my level." We argued. I told her that these comparisons hurt me, that I had always been there for her, that I had supported her, that I had never tried to belittle her. She answered that it was not enough, that she had settled for too little for too long. 2 days later, she packed her boxes. No screaming, no tears, just this freezing coldness. She said she was leaving, that she had to go get what she truly deserved. And I was left there in the apartment, surrounded by emptiness and silence. I kept working, paying the bills, waking up every morning with a permanent sadness and a confusion that clung to my body. I wondered at what point I had stopped being enough, or if I ever was to begin with. Truthfully, after Qley left, there was a period I have no desire to sugarcoat. It was not a clean break or a quick healing process. For weeks I cried more than I want to admit. I did not just cry at night. Sometimes I broke down in the truck. Other times, right in the middle of work, the absence hid everywhere. A mug we no longer used, an empty spot in the closet, the silence when I came home. During that time, I constantly questioned myself. I replayed our conversations, her gestures, my decisions. I wondered if indeed I had fallen behind, if I had gotten comfortable instead of being ambitious, if she was right to think she deserved better. These thoughts chased me even when I tried to think about something else. And then, little by little, something started to shift inside me. It was not a clear-cut decision like, I am going to forget her. It was more of an emotional fatigue, an exhaustion. At a certain point, I just did not have the energy to keep hurting like that anymore. I did not stop thinking about her all at once, but I started to let go of that version of myself that remained stuck in the past. Work became my refuge. With my brother, I took on more jobs, more detailing, more hours in the sun. If we used to work 8 hours before, now we were doing 10, sometimes 12. I was not just doing it for the money, even though it helped. I did it because when I was busy, my mind quieted down a bit. My brother noticed it before I did. One day, after a particularly long shift, while we were putting away the equipment, he looked at me seriously and said, "Bro, it is good to be a hard worker, but at this rate you are going to burn out." I answered without thinking, "Do not worry, I am fine. I just need to stay busy." He did not insist, but his phrase stuck in my mind. Despite that, I kept going. I preferred being physically exhausted over being left alone with my thoughts. As the months went by, an idea began to take shape in my head. I had always loved cars, not just washing them and making them shine, but also modifying and customizing them. Since I was young, I was passionate about tuning. I was not a certified expert, no, but I had learned through practice, videos, trial and error. Every car I ever owned I modified in one way or another. Aesthetics, minor engine tweaks, simple body kits. It was a pleasure, a hobby. I had never considered it as a real business. And yet at that moment I started thinking that maybe I could do something different. The detailing service was stable, but it was also limiting. It depended on the weather, the available time, the volume of clients. Customization had something more creative, more personal to it. And in our city, that kind of service was not common. There were big garages specializing in classic mechanics and repairs, but almost no one offered aesthetic modifications or tuning truly focused on customization. I talked to my brother about it. I gently laid out the idea to him without bragging, without really believing in it myself. "I want to try something new," I told him. "Not quit detailing, but start a small modification shop." He listened carefully. He did not mock me. He did not downplay it. He just said, "If anyone can do it, it is you. But do it right. Do not do it halfway." That was exactly the push I needed. I started very modestly. I rented a small garage space in a simple industrial park on the edge of town. It was not a pro shop, far from it. Just a tight space with the essential tools, decent lighting, and a huge desire to succeed. At first, I did not do repairs. I only focused on simple aesthetic modifications, color changes, body kit installations, visual tuning. The first clients came through recommendations. One talked to another. Someone would see a modified car on the street and ask where it was done. And little by little, I started getting steady work. I was surprised by how fast the demand grew. Apparently, there were a lot more people interested in this type of service than I had imagined. Some clients even came from other neighborhoods. They said there were not many places that dared to customize cars in an accessible way. For the first time in a long while, I felt good about myself. Not an explosive happiness, no, but a peace, an inner stability. I woke up with a clear purpose. Every project was different. Every car was a challenge. I went home exhausted, but with a satisfaction that had nothing to do with what I felt before. Almost a year passed like that. And during all that time, I heard no news from Qley. I did not look for her, and she did not look for me either. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped imagining scenarios. Her name stopped hurting with the same intensity. The shop grew. It was no longer just an improvised garage. I reinvested what I earned. Better tools, higher quality paint, equipment for more complex modifications. I started doing simple engine upgrades, always sticking to what I knew how to do properly. And then one day, a different kind of client arrived. A young guy who was quite well known on social media, especially on TikTok. He had a lot of followers and frequently made car-related content. He came in with a very specific request: completely change his car's color and do some engine modifications to improve performance. I accepted with a mix of nervousness and excitement. I knew that if it went well, this could be a massive opportunity. I worked with even more rigor than usual. I double-checked everything. I did not improvise anything. When the car was ready, the result was even better than I had hoped. The client filmed the entire process. He posted several videos. One of them surpassed 1 million views in a few days. My shop was tagged. My name was out there, and from that moment on, everything accelerated. I received messages from interested people. New clients showed up saying they had seen me on social media. There were even people who recognized me on the street. It was not true fame, but for someone like me, it was completely new. I remember perfectly a day when I was stopped at a gas station. A guy looked at me and asked, "Are you the one from the tuning shop?" "Yeah." I nodded, surprised. He replied, "I saw the video of the car you repainted." Honestly, it was incredible. That comment, however simple, touched me more than I would have thought. For the first time, I felt that something I had built with my own hands was being recognized. That night, I went back to the shop late. I sat alone for a moment looking at this place that once was just an empty garage. And I thought about everything: the breakup, the pain, the overworking, the fear of failing at everything. That was when my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. I opened it without thinking too much. It was Qley. The message read, "Hey, it is Qley. I saw your business is doing well. Congratulations." I read it twice. I did not feel any immediate anger, nor joy, nor nostalgia. Just a strange sensation, as if someone was knocking on a door I had left closed for a long time. I did not answer. I turned off the screen and went back to work. I thought it would stop there, but a few days later I got a notification on Facebook. A message from her. It struck me because, ironically, she was the one who had blocked me first when she left. Her message said, "Hey, I think you did not see the message I sent you a few days ago. I just wanted to congratulate you." Once again, I did not reply. Not out of pride, not to punish her, simply because I did not feel the need to. I had learned to live without pending explanations. I closed the conversation and went back to my business. 2 days passed, and I told myself it was finally over. I was wrong. One afternoon, while I was working on a car inside the shop, I heard a voice I recognized immediately. "Tyler." I looked up and saw her standing a few feet away. Qley was dressed elegantly, very far from the version I had known at the beginning of our relationship. Her presence unsettled me. I did not expect to see her there. I could not even believe she had dared to come all the way here. She greeted me from a distance with a smile. I did not react right away. I stayed still for a few seconds trying to understand what was happening. Then she walked quickly toward me as if nothing had ever happened. She opened her arms to hug me. I took a step back. Whoa. I blurted out without getting closer. She froze, visibly embarrassed, then quickly put her smile back on. I am happy to see you, she said. Really, I am very proud of you. I did not even know what to answer. I just nodded. You always used to tell me you wanted to shop like this, she continued. You did it. I admire you a lot. These words sounded rehearsed, prepared, as if she had practiced this speech before coming. As for me, I felt a mix of tension and disbelief. What are you doing here? I finally asked. I just wanted to see you, she replied, and congratulate you in person. I thought we could get dinner sometime, catch up on our lives, make up for lost time. I shook my head immediately without hesitating. No, my answer came out dry, sharp, leaving no room for doubt. She slightly furrowed her eyebrows. Not even just to talk? She attempted. I do not want to, I said. I am busy. The silence grew heavy. She looked around, observed the shop, then looked at me again. Okay, she breathed out as if she had just swallowed something bitter. I did not mean to bother you. She turned around and left. I watched her walk away feeling neither relief nor guilt. Just that strange feeling as if a piece of my past was trying to sneak into a life that no longer belonged to it. I thought that was the last time. It was not. A few days later she came back, and this time she did not arrive empty-handed. She walked into the shop with a bag of food. Hey, she said, I brought you some food. I figured a hard-working man like you must be getting hungry. I looked at her in silence. I did not smile. I did not say thank you. I just observed her as if I was trying to understand what scene she was acting out. What are you doing, Qley? I asked her. I do not get it. You leave saying I am the worst thing in your life, and now you show up with food as if you came to win me back or something. She shook her head quickly. No, it is not that, she replied. It is just that I am a more mature woman now. I have changed. I know I said a lot of foolish things before. I wanted to apologize and see if we can at least have a cordial relationship, a friendship. She stepped a bit closer. I go to therapy, she added. I am a new woman. I listened to her until the end without interrupting. And when she finished, I took a deep breath. I am sorry, I said, but I do not want anything with you. No friendship, no contact. Her face changed. Her smile disappeared, replaced by a mix of frustration and surprise. Come on, she blurted out. I know you miss our relationship. Then she added, you are a different man now. The man I knew before was pathetic. You have changed. I felt that word smack me right in the face. Pathetic, I repeated, staring at her. Do not take it the wrong way, she quickly continued. But you were a car detailer. A woman like me could not stay with someone like that. Now you have become a real man. You are impressive when you customize cars. I think you have always been the ideal guy. You just needed to mature a bit. I looked at her, exhausted, and answered without raising my voice. Can you leave now, please? She completely ignored my sentence. She took another step and continued as if she were reciting something she had been rehearsing for days. Now you are the ideal man I always wanted, she said. You need me. A king must always have a queen to share the throne. We will be successful and we will have beautiful children. For a second I thought she was mocking me. I looked at her, waiting for a sign of irony, but she was dead serious. I could not believe it, and I felt this mix of secondhand embarrassment and disbelief. The scene was just so absurd. So I snapped. I think all your trips to the salon made you breathe in too much of that nail polish. And then I added, you are completely out of line. Her face transformed immediately. What is wrong with you? She replied, offended. I am complimenting you. I shook my head. Complimenting me, I repeated. You tell me I was pathetic, and now that I have a little bit of recognition and money, I am not anymore. That is how people like you are. You want a man who is already successful, but you are not capable of supporting him at the beginning. Success is built. It does not fall from the sky. She opened her mouth to interrupt me, but I did not let her. The pathetic one here is you, I continued. You talk about classes, but please, you rely on your parents for support. Her expression tightened. So what? What does it matter if my parents help with some things? She answered. I did not even respond directly to that. I kept going. You think you are some exceptional woman, but you are not in any special league. The money is not yours. It belongs to your parents. And if I am being honest, you are pretty average. That made her explode. What is your problem? She screamed. I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. When for years you used to be so eager for our time together and always wanted to be close. You think I am average? You were not saying that when we lived together. And if I was not in the mood, you would get moody. It was at that moment I realized we were not alone. Some of the shop employees had heard everything. There were a few nervous chuckles, and then it turned into genuine bursts of laughter. I laughed too, not because it was funny, but because the situation had become so ridiculous that it bordered on the unreal. You are just making a fool of yourself, I told her. Please go away. She looked at me with pure rage, her breathing heavy. I am leaving, she snapped. But I am warning you. I am going to tell my dad to shut down your little shop. He works for the county. I could not hold back a laugh. Please, Qley, I replied. Your dad works in the cafeteria at the county hospital. The employee's laughter doubled. She turned red. Out of anger or shame, I do not know. Yes, but it is a public facility, she insisted. And he has connections. You will see. I did not add anything. I just watched her turn around and storm out of the shop, furious, almost trembling. I thought it would end there. The next day, looking at the shop's reviews, I saw a new negative rating. It said, "The owner is an idiot. Do not go there." I read it once, then I smiled. I did not reply. I did not report it. I did not feel the need to defend myself. That day, while working on a car, I thought back on everything that had just happened. About how some people can look down on you while you are building something, only to try and crawl back as soon as your hard work starts paying off. About how some confuse worth with status and love with self-interest. And I realized one thing. I had not lost anything when Qley left. On the contrary, I had gained something much more important: clarity. Comment. Hey everyone, this one really hit close to home for me. I've realized how vital it is to hold on to your self-worth, no matter who tries to take it away. You should never stay where you're constantly made to feel less than. Learning to set clear boundaries has been life-changing for me. The healing journey isn't easy, but it's absolutely worth it. Focusing on your own progress and peace is one of the best things you can do. You deserve people who see your value, even when you're still growing. Choosing calm over chaos shows real strength. Always be gentle with yourself through the process. I hope this reminds you to keep putting yourself first and building a life you're proud of. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.